and welcome to Let's Talk AppSecOps. My name is Mark Lambert, Chief Product Officer here at ArmorCode. And today what we're going to talk about are the 5 things you need to successfully deploy an enterprise-grade software security program. Now, what we need, the problem that we have, is we've got whole bunches of data coming from a whole bunch of different places, and we can't wrangle this data and get it all under control. We also have got security teams and development teams trying to work together, so we have this challenge of collaboration. So how can we bring all of this together into one centralized location for visibility, prioritization, and automation of the workflows and the communication? So there are 5 things that we're going to need. First is we're going to need access control, authorization, and authentication to that data. So we're going to bring all of that data together, but we want to make sure that the right people have access to the right data. So first is SSO. It's Google, it's Microsoft, it's Okta, it's Ping Identity. But the second part of that is being able to organize those individuals that are now in the platform into teams and give those teams scope of access, so certain parts of my portfolio that they have access to, but also then give the individuals roles. And what we also need to be able to do is to connect that team concept within our application security posture management platform or our vulnerability management platform to that SSO in the first place as well. So we can connect that together. We've now able to deploy at scale, both from a secure access perspective, but also the number of team members that we're going to be deploying and bringing into the platform. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is we've got a secure access, but do we have all of the data that we need? So the first thing we're going to need, the second thing we're going to need to do is to get data from all of the different source tools. Now, most organizations, as they start scaling, want to start standardizing the set of tools so we can have some consistency of reporting across the organization. However, there are really 2 things that kind of fight against that. First is developer experience. So we'll talk about it a little bit more later, but being able to give the development teams a little bit of autonomy to self-select the tools that are going to work in their ecosystem. So often what I see in organizations is that there are really 2 types of self-selection that occurs. One is if the application or the team are working on something that is not super business critical, then we can save some tool licensing and we can use some open source tooling. We can then leverage commercial tools for our crown jewels, our business critical software applications. Now, when we're doing that tool selection as well, what also comes in is the right tool for the right job. So if I'm doing static analysis of C and C++ code, I might be using something like a Grammatech. If I'm doing analysis of Java, for example, I might prefer to use something like a Checkmarx or GitHub Advanced Security, for example, with a variety of other languages like Go and the like. So the other thing that can cause high tool fragmentation is as an organization grows, you acquire other organizations, and those other organizations already have standardized practices in place. So when I'm looking at scaling my software security program, I need this platform that's going to bring all of this data together, and I need to have support for all of the different tools that are out there. And there are literally hundreds of those out there in the market today. So number 1 is controlling the access. Number 2 is getting the data in. Number 3 is organizing the data. And this is where the concept of hierarchies kind of comes into the conversation. So most of the time when we're thinking about application security, we think about code repositories and the applications they belong to, or the products that they belong to. But as I start thinking about the organizational problem, those applications or products roll up under teams, that roll under business groups, that roll under business divisions. And guess what? They change. Also, guess what? An application might have a module, a microservice that's being leveraged by other teams. So we have this almost like a mesh, if you like, an N-level hierarchy with connections across it. I also will be asked at some point, and somebody will say, what's my security posture across the code bases? What's my security posture across the cloud? What's the security posture against my data center infrastructure? Which means I need a parallel hierarchy, a way of navigating and organizing that data, which is focused on the technologies that are being used. So this concept of hierarchically organizing the data is the 3rd thing that we need to be able to successfully scale, because we need to for us to be able to show value in the program and achieve the business goals, we need to be able to talk about the data that's in there and present it in the right way. Now we've got access, we've got controlled access, we've got all of the data from the different tools, we've organized it in the right way. Now we need to do something about it. So thing number 4 is automation. And automation is a very big umbrella. This includes things like automating the deduplication of repeat findings or suppression of repeat findings from the tools, automation of correlation of findings across tools so that I can really do automated ticket creation, not for each individual finding from every individual tool, but have one ticket, one unit of work that is associated with multiple findings that are actually finding the same vulnerability, for example. And then the last piece of automation here is automation around service level agreements. When I ingest data, when I find results, I need to associate SLAs, service level agreements, with when that is due to be remediated by, but also I might set up SLAs for my security team from a triaging perspective, and then my engineering team or my operations team from a remediation perspective. So I can really break down not just time from identification to resolution, but break that down internally as well. And this is where the 5th component comes in. When we're talking about working with software security teams, that obviously is a combination of software and security. So developers and security engineers. This is where the developer experience is critical. While our security team are familiar with the tools that are in place, they're familiar with the posture visibility and prioritization workflows that we're trying to do, they're not as familiar on the development side. So this is where you need to drive the developer experience by keeping the developers in the area where they work, which in most cases is Jira. So that's not just ticket creation, though. It's the dynamic communication of data between Jira and your security platform, making sure that everybody's on the same page, making sure that we can facilitate workflows such as proposal actions from an engineering perspective, saying, hey, I need an extension of my SLA, communicating that back to the security team in the system that the security team are using. You want to minimize the switching of environments to increase the experience or improve the experience, which ultimately obviously reduces overall friction and reduces your mean time to remediation. Okay, they're the 5 things. If you'd like to learn more about this, let us know here at ArmorCode. Obviously, this is an area that we focus on, and we really are very deeply impassioned to really help the organization scale software security programs and make them successful. So thanks for watching this episode. Click like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next one coming up soon.